Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we invite you to step beyond the veil of reality and into the shadowy realms of the unknown. Welcome to Whispers in the Dark, a journey into the depths of the human psyche and the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension. In this series, each tale is a labyrinth of secrets and surprises, a journey not just through space and time, but through the inner corridors of the mind. Here, in the world of Whispers in the Dark, nothing is as it seems. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, the familiar turns alien, and the faint whispers in the dark hold truths more profound than the loudest declarations in the light. Tonight's story, like those that will follow, treads the fine line between the real and the surreal, the tangible and the ethereal. It challenges the boundaries of belief and tests the limits of reality. It's a tale of choices and consequences, of secrets hidden in the shadows, and of the unseen forces that shape our destinies. So, I urge you, dear viewer, to suspend your disbelief and open your mind, for in the world of Whispers in the Dark, the only thing more terrifying than the unknown is the possibility that you might actually find the answers you seek. Prepare to embark on a journey where the darkness whispers and its echoes reveal the mysteries of the universe and the enigmas of the soul. This is Whispers in the Dark. The Monster at the Window. In the summer of 1953, in the quiet town of Millbrook, young Tommy Grayson lived a life typical of a 10-year-old boy. He spent his days playing baseball with friends, riding his bicycle through the neighborhood, and reading comic books. But when the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to twinkle, Tommy's nights were far from ordinary. The summer of 1953 in Millbrook was one of endless days and muggy nights. The air buzzed with the sounds of cicadas, and the scent of blooming flowers hung heavy in the warm breeze. On one such night, Tommy Grayson lay in bed, the cotton sheets tangled around his legs. Despite his best efforts, sleep eluded him. The glow of his bedside lamp cast long shadows on the walls, transforming his room into a realm of flickering shapes and shifting darkness. Tommy stared at the ceiling, counting the small cracks and crevices he knew by heart. The drone of the cicadas outside was soothing, but it did little to quell the restlessness that gnawed at him. He glanced at the clock on his nightstand. 10:45 p.m. His parents had been asleep for nearly an hour, the house settling into its nighttime rhythm of creaks and groans. Just as he was about to close his eyes and make another attempt at sleep, a peculiar sound reached his ears. It was faint at first, almost indistinguishable from the usual nighttime noises, but it grew steadily louder. It was a soft scratching, like fingernails dragging lightly across wood. Tommy sat up, his heart beginning to race. He scanned the room, trying to locate the source of the sound. His gaze fell upon the window. The curtains fluttered gently in the breeze, but beyond them, in the darkness, something moved. Tommy's breath caught in his throat as he inched closer to the edge of his bed, his eyes locked on the shadowy figure outside. There, silhouetted against the faint moonlight, was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. It was tall and gaunt, with elongated limbs and a hunched posture. The creature's skin appeared to be a mottled grey, and its eyes, those eyes, glowed a sickly yellow, cutting through the darkness with an eerie luminescence. Tommy's mouth went dry as he took in the creature's visage, every instinct screaming at him to look away, but he couldn't. The scratching sound continued, growing louder and more insistent. The creature raised a clawed hand and gently tapped on the window pane, the sound sharp and clear in the still night. Tommy's heart pounded in his chest as he finally found his voice. "Dad! Mom!" he screamed, his voice shrill with terror. "There's a monster outside my window!" Within moments, the door to his room burst open, and his father, George, rushed in, followed closely by his mother, Mary. George switched on the overhead light, dispelling the shadows and illuminating the room in harsh clarity. "Tommy, what's going on?" George demanded, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of danger. Tommy pointed a trembling finger at the window. There's a monster outside." George hurried to the window and peered out into the night. He saw nothing but the familiar shapes of their backyard, the old oak tree, the swing set, and the flower beds. He opened the window and leaned out, looking left and right, but there was no sign of the creature Tommy had described. "There's nothing out here, son," George said, trying to keep his voice calm and reassuring. "It was probably just a bad dream." Mary knelt beside Tommy's bed, wrapping her arms around him. "It's okay, sweetheart. Sometimes our minds play tricks on us when we're tired." Tommy shook his head vehemently. "No, it wasn't a dream. I saw it. It was right there." His parents exchanged worried glances. George closed the window and drew the curtains, then turned back to Tommy. "Why don't you try to get some sleep, buddy? We'll leave the light on for you." Tommy nodded reluctantly, knowing that they didn't believe him. As his parents left the room, he settled back into bed, pulling the covers up to his chin. He kept his eyes fixed on the window, waiting for any sign of movement, but the night remained still. The following night, Tommy was determined to stay awake. He lay in bed with a flashlight clutched in his hand, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. Hours passed, and just as he began to think that maybe it had all been his imagination, the scratching sound returned. Tommy's eyes widened as he shone the flashlight toward the window. There it was, the creature, with its glowing yellow eyes and clawed hands. This time, it didn't tap on the window pane. Instead, it simply stood there watching him. Tommy felt a strange mix of terror and curiosity. He wanted to scream for his parents again, but something held him back. The creature didn't seem threatening. It just seemed curious, like him. Summoning all his courage, Tommy slowly got out of bed and approached the window. The creature's eyes followed his every move, but it made no attempt to enter the room. Tommy stood just a few feet away from the glass, his flashlight illuminating the monster's face. "Who are you?" Tommy whispered, his voice barely audible. The creature tilted its head, as if considering the question. Then, in a voice that was soft and raspy, it replied, "I am Mortis." Tommy's fear began to ebb, replaced by a strange sense of fascination. "What do you want?" he asked. Mortis smiled, revealing rows of sharp, pointed teeth. "To be your friend," it said. "I've been watching you for a long time, Tommy." Despite the creature's unsettling appearance, there was something oddly comforting about its presence. Tommy felt a connection, a sense of understanding that he couldn't explain. He nodded slowly. "Okay, Mortis, we can be friends." As the night wore on, Tommy and Mortis talked about everything and nothing. Mortis shared stories of faraway places and enchanted realms, filling Tommy's mind with wonder. By the time dawn approached, Tommy felt a strange sense of camaraderie with the monster at his window. When the first light of day began to creep into the room, Mortis stepped back into the shadows. "I must go now," it said, "but I'll be back tonight." Tommy nodded, feeling a pang of sadness at Mortis's departure. "I'll be here," he promised. As he crawled back into bed, his mind raced with thoughts of his new friend. The fear that had once gripped him was gone, replaced by a sense of excitement and anticipation. Little did he know this friendship would lead to a twist of fate that would change his life forever. Over the following weeks, Mortis continued to visit Tommy every night, their bond growing stronger with each encounter. The creature's initial eerie presence began to feel familiar, even comforting, as they spent hours talking and sharing stories. Tommy found himself looking forward to the twilight, anticipating the sound of Mortis's claws lightly tapping on his window. Each night, Tommy would lie in bed, pretending to sleep until his parents' bedroom light went out. Then, he'd leap out of bed and open the window, his heart racing with excitement. Mortis would appear out of the shadows, its yellow eyes glowing softly in the darkness. "Hello, Tommy," Mortis would greet, its voice like a whisper carried on the wind. "Hi, Mortis," Tommy would reply, a smile spreading across his face. "What story do you have for me tonight?" Mortis had an endless repertoire of tales, each more fantastical than the last. It spoke of ancient kingdoms, hidden deep within forests, where trees whispered secrets to those who listened. It described magical creatures that lived in harmony with nature, far from the prying eyes of humans. Mortis's stories painted vivid pictures in Tommy's mind, transporting him to worlds filled with wonder and adventure. One night, Mortis recounted the tale of a secret underwater city inhabited by merfolk whose shimmering scales lit up the ocean depths like a million tiny stars. Another night, it spoke of a mystical forest where every animal could speak, and the trees themselves were alive, their roots entwined in a grand network of communication. As their friendship blossomed, Tommy began to confide in Mortis about his own life. He spoke of his dreams and fears, the bullies at school, and his yearning for adventure beyond the confines of Millbrook. Mortis listened intently, its glowing eyes never wavering from Tommy's face. "Why do you come to see me, Mortis?" Tommy asked one night, his curiosity piqued. Mortis tilted its head, considering the question. "Because you are special, Tommy," it replied. "You see things others do not. You believe in the magic that others ignore." Tommy felt a swell of pride at Mortis's words. He had always felt different, set apart from the other children who were content with their ordinary lives. Mortis's visits confirmed what he had always suspected, that there was more to the world than met the eye. As their nightly meetings continued, Tommy's behavior began to change. He became more withdrawn during the day, his mind constantly drifting back to the fantastical worlds Mortis described. His schoolwork suffered, and he lost interest in playing with his friends. Instead, he spent his days counting down the hours until nightfall, when he could see Mortis again. His parents grew increasingly concerned. They noticed the dark circles under Tommy's eyes and his lack of focus. "What's going on with you, Tommy?" his mother asked one morning over breakfast. "You seem so distant lately." "I'm fine, Mom," Tommy replied, forcing a smile. "Just tired, I guess." But Tommy knew it was more than that. He felt a connection with Mortis that he couldn't explain, a bond that seemed to transcend the ordinary world. He found himself confiding in Mortis more than he ever had with anyone else, sharing his deepest thoughts and dreams. One particularly dark and stormy night, as the wind howled and rain lashed against the window, Mortis appeared with an air of urgency. Its eyes glowed brighter than usual, and its voice carried an edge of excitement. "Tommy, I have something important to ask you," Mortis said, its claws gently tapping on the windowsill. Tommy sat up, his heart pounding with anticipation. "What is it, Mortis?" Mortis leaned closer, its eyes boring into Tommy's. "Would you like to visit my world? It's a place of magic and adventure, far more exciting than this one. You could stay there with me and see things you've only dreamed of." Tommy's eyes widened with excitement. The idea of leaving Millbrook and exploring a world of enchantment was more than he had ever dared hope for. "Can I really go with you?" he asked, his voice trembling with eagerness. "Yes," Mortis replied, its smile widening, "but you must trust me completely. Once you enter my world, there is no turning back." Tommy hesitated for a moment, his mind racing with the possibilities. He thought about his parents, his friends, and the life he would leave behind, but the allure of adventure was too strong to resist. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "I want to go with you." That night, Tommy could barely contain his excitement. He packed a small bag with his most treasured possessions, a comic book, a baseball glove, and his favorite toy soldier. He wrote a note to his parents, explaining that he was going on an adventure and would return soon. He placed the note on his pillow and quietly opened the window. Mortis was waiting, its eyes glowing like beacons in the darkness. "Are you ready, Tommy?" it asked, extending a clawed hand. Tommy nodded, taking Mortis's hand. The touch was surprisingly warm, and a sense of calm washed over him. "I'm ready." As they stepped out into the stormy night, the world around them began to blur and twist. Colors melted into one another, and shapes lost their definition. Tommy felt a strange sensation, as if he were being pulled through a tunnel. The wind roared in his ears and rain pelted his face, but he clung to Mortis's hand, trusting his friend to guide him. Tommy's surroundings continued to warp and distort, the familiar landscape of Millbrook dissolving into a swirl of colors and sounds. He felt a sensation of weightlessness, as if he were floating through space. Mortis's hand remained a steady anchor, guiding him through the chaos. As they traveled, Mortis spoke softly, its voice soothing and melodic. "We're almost there, Tommy. Just a little further, and you'll see wonders beyond your wildest dreams." Tommy's excitement grew with each passing moment. He imagined the magical realms Mortis had described, filled with talking animals, enchanted forests, and hidden treasures. He couldn't wait to see it all for himself. Finally, the swirling colors began to slow, and the sensations of movement ceased. Tommy found himself standing in a lush, verdant forest bathed in the soft glow of an otherworldly light. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the distant sound of laughter. "Welcome to my world, Tommy," Mortis said, releasing his hand. "This is where our adventure begins." Tommy looked around in awe, his eyes wide with wonder. The forest was unlike anything he had ever seen, with trees that towered into the sky and flowers that glowed with an inner light. Creatures of all shapes and sizes flitted about, their eyes twinkling with curiosity. "This is amazing," Tommy whispered, unable to contain his joy. "Thank you, Mortis. Thank you for bringing me here." Mortis smiled, its yellow eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "The adventure is just beginning, Tommy. There is so much more to see and explore." As they ventured deeper into the forest, Tommy felt a sense of exhilaration and freedom he had never known. He knew that his life had changed forever, and that his friendship with Mortis would lead to incredible discoveries and unforgettable experiences. Little did he know, however, that the true nature of their bond and the price of his adventure would soon be revealed. One night, as Tommy prepared to sleep in his treehouse, he heard a faint whisper. "Tommy, Tommy!" He sat up, his heart pounding. The voice was familiar, but it wasn't Mortis. It was softer, more urgent. "Tommy, wake up!" Tommy climbed down from the treehouse and followed the voice through the forest. As he walked, the trees seemed to part, revealing a hidden path that led to a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center of the clearing stood a mirror, its surface shimmering like liquid silver. Curious, Tommy approached the mirror and peered into it. To his shock, he saw his bedroom reflected back at him. His parents were there, sitting on his bed, tears streaming down their faces. They looked older, more haggard than he remembered. "Mum? Dad?" Tommy whispered, reaching out to touch the mirror's surface. His hand passed through the glass as if it were water, causing ripples to spread across the image. In the reflection, his mother turned her head sharply as if sensing his presence. "Tommy, is that you?" she asked, her voice filled with hope and desperation. "Yes, Mom, it's me," Tommy cried, his voice trembling with emotion. "I'm here. I'm right here." His father leaned forward, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Tommy, where are you? We've been searching for you for months." Tommy's heart sank. Months. It had only felt like days since he had left with Mortis. "I'm in Mortis's world," he explained. "I thought it would be fun, but I miss you both so much." His parents exchanged a look of sorrow and determination. "Tommy, you need to come home," his mother said firmly. "You need to come back to us." "But how?" Tommy asked, tears streaming down his face. "I don't know how to get back." As Tommy spoke, the image in the mirror began to waver. Suddenly, Mortis appeared behind him, his eyes glowing fiercely. "Tommy, step away from the mirror," he commanded, his voice cold and unyielding. Tommy turned to face Mortis, fear and confusion swirling in his mind. "Why, Mortis? What's happening?" Mortis's smile was no longer warm and reassuring. It was sinister, revealing the true nature of his intentions. "You are mine, Tommy. You belong to this world now. You cannot go back." Tommy's heart raced as he realized the full extent of Mortis's deception. "You lied to me," he said, his voice trembling with anger. "You said I could go back any time." Mortis chuckled darkly. "Did I? Or did I tell you what you wanted to hear? This world thrives on the dreams of children like you, Tommy. Once you enter, there is no escape." Desperation filled Tommy's heart. He turned back to the mirror, his parents' faces still visible but growing fainter. "Mom, Dad, help me." His father's voice came through, strong and clear. "Tommy, listen to me. You can break free. You just need to remember who you are and where you belong." Tommy felt a surge of determination. He looked at Mortis, his eyes filled with defiance. "I won't stay here. I want to go home." Mortis's expression darkened, and he lunged at Tommy, his claws outstretched. "You will stay," he hissed. "You have no choice." But Tommy was faster. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small, treasured items he had brought with him, his comic book, baseball glove, and toy soldier. He held them up, their familiar feel grounding him in his true reality. "These are my memories," Tommy said, his voice growing stronger. This is who I am. I am Tommy Grayson, and I belong with my family. The mirror's surface began to glow brightly, the image of his parents becoming clearer. Mortis recoiled, hissing in fury. "No, you cannot leave." But Tommy ignored him. He took a deep breath and stepped into the mirror, feeling a strange sensation wash over him as he passed through the liquid surface. Tommy stumbled forward and found himself back in his bedroom, the familiar sights and smells overwhelming him with relief. His parents rushed to his side, enveloping him in a tight embrace. "Tommy, oh, thank God," his mother cried, tears of joy streaming down her face. "We missed you so much, son," his father said, his voice choked with emotion. "We thought we'd lost you forever." Tommy clung to his parents, his heart filled with gratitude. "I'm home," he whispered. "I'm finally home." As they held each other, Tommy glanced back at the mirror. For a brief moment, he saw Mortis's furious face, but then it vanished, leaving only Tommy's reflection staring back at him. Life gradually returned to normal for Tommy and his family. The nights were no longer filled with fear and anticipation, but with the comforting routine of a loving home. Tommy's parents, still deeply concerned about the ordeal he had gone through, kept a close eye on him, ensuring he felt safe and supported. At school, Tommy's teachers noticed a positive change. He was more engaged, more present, and eager to learn. The dark circles under his eyes faded, replaced by the bright, inquisitive gaze of a curious and resilient boy. Years passed, and Tommy grew into a young man. The memories of Mortis and the enchanted world he had visited lingered in the back of his mind, a reminder of the power of imagination and the importance of family. He never forgot the lessons he had learned and the strength he had found within himself. One evening, as an adult, Tommy returned to his childhood home to visit his parents. They sat around the dinner table reminiscing about old times. After dinner, Tommy found himself drawn to his old bedroom. He opened the door and stepped inside, memories flooding back. The room had changed little over the years, but the mirror still hung on the wall, its surface reflecting the familiar surroundings. Tommy approached it, his reflection staring back at him. He placed a hand on the glass, feeling a strange connection to the past. "Thank you," he whispered, not sure if he was speaking to the mirror, to Mortis, or to himself. "For everything." As he turned to leave, a soft, familiar whisper filled the room. "Tommy." He paused, his heart skipping a beat. He glanced back at the mirror, but there was nothing there, only his own reflection. With a smile, he left the room, closing the door behind him. In the twilight zone of memory and reality, Tommy had learned that the true magic lay not in otherworldly adventures, but in the strength of the human spirit and the love of family. And though the monster at the window was gone, the lessons it had taught him would stay with him forever.
In the dead of night, our horrors rise as shadows dance beneath the moonlit skies. Tales of terror, lurking in the dark, the late horror show ignites the spark. Tune in, dear fiends, to a wicked delight. From the depths of fear we bring forth the night. Hold tight, radio echoes hauntingly through. Subscribe and join us for frights anew.